Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Pointless Top 10, a show where we make top 10 lists of pointless things, while we flying by this pointless statue in Booty Bay, because inside pointless things are treasure. Let's begin. 10. Number 10 is Anton, and Anton is a forsaken meat vendor found patrolling the roads southwest of New Agamond in the Howling Fjord. And Anton is a meat merchant. He has the meats. He's like the Arby's of World of Warcraft. Which I guess isn't the greatest of accolades, but if you look at what he's selling a fresh pound of flesh, a haunch of meat, well, 5 haunches of meat, 5 cured ham steaks, and a bunch of mystery meat. He is actually a reference to The Merchant of Venice, which is a play by William Shakespeare. And I don't really know anything about the play The Merchant of Venice, but I read that he demands a pound of his flesh, which I guess is why this guy has so much flesh, including a fresh pound of flesh. And that's really it for Anton. He just patrols up and down this road selling his meat. But you know what? Somebody's got to sell the meat. And that's why Anton is number 10. 9. Number 9 is Vashti the Wandering Merchant, and Vashti is a night elf ghost vendor traveling the eastern path from the ruined sanctum to Fellblaze, Ingress, and Azuna. And Vashti's kind of interesting because it seems they've subtly changed him in a patch, and nobody really noticed because it's just some random NPC walking around. But on this show, we find these little things. So if you read the Wowhead comments, people are like, he doesn't seem too exotic to me, and everyone's like thumbing it up, and I'm like, what does it mean? Because if you look at his name, it just says The Wandering Merchant, General Goods, and I'm like, okay, but I guess he used to be the purveyor of exotic goods, because somebody says purveyor of exotic goods that only about 200 other merchants in all the land sell, and now he has general goods, so I think they actually changed him from a purveyor of exotic goods to just a general goods vendor. And as you can see, he does sell quite a bit of generic goods, so listen, even though he doesn't have his exotic goods like he was supposed to, he's still a wandering merchant ghost, which is pretty cool. And that's why Vashti the Wandering Merchant is number 9. 8. Number 8 is Hamlin Atkins, and Hamlin Atkins is a wandering forsaken fungus vendor located in Brill in Tirisful Glades. And Hamlin is actually a reference to the Atkins diet, which according to Wikipedia, the Atkins diet is a low-carb fad diet devised by Robert Atkins in the 1970s, marketed with claims that carbohydrate restriction is crucial to weight loss and that the diet offered a high-calorie way to stay thin forever. So I take it the reason they made Hamlin what he is because he's an undead, so obviously he's very thin, he's bones, and then he's selling fungus because mushrooms are extremely low in carbohydrates. And if you look at what he sells delicious cave mold, which I think is a pretty subjective opinion. I don't know if everybody's going to say cave mold's delicious, but maybe it is very delicious cave mold. Dried king boletes, I don't know how to say that, forest mushroom caps, raw black truffles, red speckled mushrooms, and spongy morels. I think you say morel, not morel. I don't know. I think it's morel. And that's pretty much it. He's a reference to the Atkins diet, and he sells mushrooms, and that's why he's number 8. 7. Number 7 is Grecian Iron Stove, and Grecian Iron Stove is a wandering dwarven bread vendor located on the road between the Valley of Kings and Dun Algaz in Loch Modan. And he shouts out, Modor Dagum, Dun Gashheim Modor Dagum Rand. Or, if you can't speak Dwarvish, all kinds of bread here, made fresh today, get 'em while they last. And then he walks up and down the road selling the bread that he just baked. So he sells freshly baked bread, obviously, moist corn bread, soft banana bread, homemade cherry pie, Mulgore spice bread, and tough hunks of bread. I imagine he also bakes his bread in an iron stove because his last name is Iron Stove, so I guess it would be weird if he didn't use an iron stove. He also gets pretty dressed up to sell his bread. Look, he's got like a vest and dress pants on and everything. I thought he'd be dressed as like a baker or something, but either way, that's why Grecian Iron Stove is number 7. 6. Number 6 is Craggle Wobbletop, and Craggle is a gnome that pushes around his cart full of toys in Stormwind. And Craggle was actually added in Cataclysm, selling his toys, but in Battle for Azeroth, he appears in the vision of Stormwind and manages to avoid going mad by using his robot toys. But the main reason I love Craggle is he's just a gnome pushing around his cart of toys. Like, that's just what he's doing. I mean, if you look at what he's selling, he's actually selling quite a bit. He's got the swine skin, so it's like a football, then he's got like a football. He's got the war fuel back from that Mountain Dew thing way back in the day. He's got the Red Ryder air rifle and ammo. He's got a grind gear toy gorilla. He's got some thrashers. He's got ragdolls, paper zeppelin kits, copper racers, foam swords, train sets, a wind-up train wrecker. He's got a whole bunch of stuff. And you can tell that he loves what he's doing. And like they say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, except You probably will. It'll just be fun work, and you'll still have some work here and there that's not that fun, but that's why Craggle Wobbletop is number 6. 5. Number 5 is Xantish, and Xantish is a jungle troll snake vendor located in the Valley of Spirits in Orgrimmar. According to the WoW wiki, he fearlessly tracks, captures, and trains noble snakes so they will aid their comrades in battle. And he specifically sells 3 snakes. There's the Black King Snake, the Brown Snake, and the Crimson Snake. There's also a toy called Xantish's Flute, where you can call wild snakes to follow you for 1 minute. But the reason I put Xantish on this list is because he's such a prominent figure in World of Warcraft for me. Like, I remember going to Orgrimmar and seeing this guy walking around with his snakes, and it's like, dude, that's just the snake guy, right? And not only that, he's got a little bit of crazy lore. So back in Mist of Pandaria, when the Corcoran took over Orgrimmar with Garrosh Hellscream, they confiscated his snakes. He was even quoted as saying, "My snakes, man, they took my snakes." But luckily, after we regained control of Orgrimmar, he was able to get his snakes back, and he's had them to this very day, and that's why Xantish is number 5. 4. Number 4 is Lazaric, and Lazaric is a goblin weapon vendor located on the road between the Crossroads and Ratchet. He's also accompanied by his ogre bodyguard named Jorb. And one thing people point out is that Jorb is affiliated with Gadgetson, while Lazaric has his rep tied to Ratchet. And apparently Jorb might be a reference to Homestar Runner, which that takes me way back. That's like when I was in high school 20 years ago, which I'm old, Gandalf. Man. But they added a quest for this guy back in Battle for Azeroth where he's like an investor in Venture Co. business, but aside from that, I just remember him walking up and down Ratchet to Crossroads being like, hey, it's the guy with the ogre, and that's really what I remember him for. And he sells a bunch of weapons. He's got claymores, swords, maces, hatchets, you name it. He's also got some potions for some reason. I guess he just got them from somebody and was like, hey, I got these too. I don't know. So the main reason he's high on this list is he's a goblin with an ogre bodyguard. That's pretty cool. And I'm pretty nostalgic because I always remember him when I was questing back in the early days of WoW. So that's why Lazaric is number 4. 3. Number 3 is Antonio Pirelli, and Antonio Pirelli is a human exotic goods vendor that travels from Red Ridge to Westfall to Elwyn Forest to Duskwood and then does it all over again. And as far as I know, this guy probably travels the most out of any traveling NPC. Like, he literally goes between 4 zones, and before he goes to each zone, he's like, here I am back in the good old Red Ridge Mountains, or he's like, Duskwood, this is going to be a scary time. And it's pretty cool, actually. And it would have been really cool to get his entire path, but he has been bugged in World of Warcraft for quite some time because I went on Wowhead and everyone was like, hey, is this guy like bugged or something? Like, I can't find him. I can't interact with him. It literally took me like 3 laps before I found him, and then he just despawned. And I was like, what is it? What? And then I went into Classic Wrath, and then I found him in Classic Wrath. So, like, Blizzard, can you fix Antonio Pirelli? I just want to go watch this guy walk around and sell me stuff, but instead, he's bugged out. Also, he's apparently a Sweeney Todd reference, where there's a sailor named Anthony and a traveling barber named Adolphus Pirelli, hence Antonio Pirelli. And there's also a Silvio Pirelli located in the Caverns of Time instance Old Stratholme, so maybe they're related. Either way, I don't know. Fix Antonio Pirelli, and that's why he's number 3. 2. Number 2 is Zixel, and Zixel is a goblin specialty vendor located on the path between Tarren Mill and South Shore in the Hillsborough foothills. He can also be found in the tower near Tarren Mill with his robotic guardian, Overwatch Mark 1. And believe it or not, Zixel is the one that made me want to create this traveling merchant pointless top 10. And he kind of reminds me of the goblin with the ogre bodyguard from earlier, but I think he's actually cooler because he actually built this robot. In fact, if you go to the old Hillsborough foothills in the Caverns of Time instance, you can actually see him creating his Overwatch Mark 0. So he's been working on this robot for quite some time. And he's got some great quotes as well. When he's leaving the ruins of South Shore, he says, "No point in wasting any more time here. Ghosts don't have money." He also says, "Now you've gone and done it. I thought you were better than the people at South Shore. They would have bought all my wares. Too bad they're all dead." And damn, loss of potential revenue is devastating. So, you know, he's your classic goblin, but he's pretty funny. I think he's cool. He's got a robot. He's obviously creative. So that's why Zixel is number 2. 1. And number 1 is the Mad Merchant. And the Mad Merchant is a gnome vendor who occasionally appears in the Wonderworks in Dalaran, and he sells several unique items for extremely high amounts of gold. And he's on a random spawn timer, but will spawn region-wide for an hour at a time. And so this guy is clearly one of the craziest traveling merchants around, highly sought after, extremely rare. And I have a funny story about this. So my wife, who you may know as Toaster Woman or Mystery Woman from back in the day, she films these pointless top 10s, and so I give her what I want to be on the list. I'm like, all right, go film the Mad Merchant. But you know what? He's like really rare. He's crazy. He's mad. He's probably not going to be there. So just film the area and I'll like Photoshop whatever in. And she was like, oh, he was there. And I was like, what? And it's crazy. So he actually was up. And it's all because she was filming something else and these role players were role playing and they were getting in the way of the shot. And so she's like, I'll go look for the Mad Merchant, and logged in and boom, he was there. I was like, you kidding me? This is crazy. So there he is, the Mad Merchant. I didn't expect him to actually be here, but we got him, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. And he sells Madman's Luggage, Prismatic Bauble, Celestial Calf, and Bloodfang Cocoon. Somebody on Wowhead also said the Dalaran music changes to silly circus music when he spawns. So that's pretty funny. So that's why the Mad Merchant is number 1. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this episode of Pointless Top 10. If you want some more Pointless Top 10s, go watch Pointless Top 10 Bald NPCs. That was a fun one. Or maybe go watch Pointless Top 10 Temples. That's another one that you might have not seen. Also, consider supporting the channel over at patreon.com/Crendor or by becoming a YouTube channel member. Okay? Okay. See ya.